A heat wave this week on the East Coast. Triple-digit temperatures will peak today, but volatile storms are also on tap, along with possible flooding. Amazon Prime Day wraps up today. Adobe Analytics tracking sales projects that there will be record spending for the e-commerce giant. This is ABC News.
Summer is heating up, just like the deals at Omaha Steaks. From perfectly aged steaks to juicy burgers, Omaha Steaks is your summer grilling headquarters. Shop the Hotter Than Fire sale at omahasteaks.com for exclusive, unconditional money-back guaranteed packages starting at $99. Plus, get an extra $10 off with promo code QUALITY at checkout. Visit omahasteaks.com, code QUALITY for an extra $10 off. Shop the Hotter Than Fire sale today, before these deals go up in smoke.
Omaha Steaks, America's original butcher.
Offer not valid in all states or where prohibited by law. Loans are subject to lender approval. See website for details.
Honey, the credit card bill came, and we're maxed out.
Maxed out cards, rent is due. We just need some extra cash to help us get by.
Maybe we should go to 27cash.com.
With our bad credit?
27cash.com is one of the largest personal loan networks. They can help people with any type of credit get up to $5,000, and cash can hit our bank account as soon as tomorrow.
When you need extra cash, go to 27cash.com. That's 27cash.com. 27cash.com.
WNSR, Nashville Sports Radio.
We just want to have enough money for retirement.
And travel to visit our grandchildren.
I understand. That's why at Fisher Investments, we start by getting to know each other, so I can learn about your family, lifestyle, goals, and needs, allowing us to tailor your portfolio.
What about commission-based products?
We don't sell those. We're a fiduciary, obligated to act in your best interest.
So how do your management fees work?
We have a simple management fee based on the value of your portfolio, so we do better when you do better.
We appreciate that kind of transparency.
We also check in with you regularly to keep you up to date on the markets and your portfolio.
What other services do you offer?
As a client, you have access to resources on investing, financial planning, estate planning, Social Security, Medicare, and more.
Wow, it sounds like Fisher Investments has everything we need.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
From the Nashville Sports Radio Media Complex, this is the George Plaster Show. Call George now at 615-844-5600 and online at WNSR.com. And now, George Plaster.
Featuring Tennessee Sports Hall of Famer Watson Brown, Tennessee Sports Hall of Famer Kelly Holcomb, along with Young Gun Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome in. It is a hot Wednesday. Holy cow. You go outside, it is like a furnace. There's your weather report. Hopefully there will be some change soon. At least the forecast says we're about to get rain. That's normally rain is when something falls out of the sky and it's above 32 degrees. I just thought I'd share that. So let's check in with the gang. We got a lot to cover in a short amount of time. Kelly Holcomb's in Murfreesboro. Kelly, what's going on?
Much, George. How you doing?
Doing good. Doing good.
Stuck in your attic, I see.
Yeah, but you know what? We've had a really good week. I think we've had great content. Billy Jones, Billy Derrick, they've churned out a lot of stuff, and a lot of it you'll hear over the next 3 weeks. So the job really well done.
Agreed. They have done a really good job, Billy in Dallas, and Billy Derrick. Of course, you know I'm not going to give Billy a thumbs up just yet. We got to get through this stuff.
No, because he'll ask for a raise. Let's bring him in here. Billy, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Yeah, don't get any ideas.
I won't.
What's going on in your world?
Not much. It's kind of crazy today, and I know Billy's going to get to it, but how often have you seen a media day where Florida is an afterthought? You know, it's Alabama, it's Texas, and Billy will probably get into this, but I think a lot of it is just the expectations have dropped so much, and Billy Napier is not the most entertaining speaker either, so it's not like he's he's drawing a lot of attention to his program. But I thought that was interesting today. So I know Billy's going to get to that, but it's just weird seeing that with the Gators. There's not a ton of attention on it. Maybe that's a good thing, though.
Yeah, we'll go to Dallas here in just a minute. I want to throw one thing out real quickly before we go to the update. Yesterday, I really got all over MLB about the fact that they had a drunk singing the national anthem on Monday night, which was absolutely disgraceful. The part that I don't understand, at most sporting events, there will be a practice session of the anthem. I've been in the arena any number of times. How in the world is MLB that stupid? Somebody had to see something and let that play out. And I just, for the life of me, I don't understand that. That's my probably one editorial comment for the day. Billy, hit the update and let's get this baby moving.
All right, let's do it. Laurie Burnett Leland brings us the update. MortgageLadyUSA.com is the website, or you can give her a call, 615-969-4350. All right, we're kicking it off with some NFL news. Caleb Williams and the Bears have agreed to a 4-year deal worth $39 million with a $25 million signing bonus. And I think the holdup here was he asked for no franchise tag, but the Bears declined. And Kelly, why would you not ask for a franchise tag? That's my question. Is there?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know that. That's a new one on me. I haven't heard that. That comes when you're coming up, and that way that the team can keep you without, having to go through a new contract so they can franchise tag you. So obviously, if he plays well, he didn't want to get franchised at the end of that, so we'd have to play under that. He wanted to negotiate again. So that's the first I've heard of that.
It feels like Team Williams in the years to come is going to be a handful, and I'm sure it's got the Bears a little worried.
Well, he better play well. I just know that. I mean, when you come in doing kind of the things, and he doesn't have an agent, which I'm cool with, but when you start asking for things like that, that's tough negotiating, and that's not looked upon well sometimes by other clubs.
Does the curse of the bad Bears quarterbacks get to him? Like, does he feel that, Kelly?
I don't know, but there's a lot of pressure. I mean, he's the number one pick, and when you're a number one pick, you're coming in the league, you're a rookie, you're not very good, your team is not very good. You've got to learn how to play the position at the highest level. Last year, he pressed a bunch. He had a bunch of turnovers. He's got to fix that, and he's got to, keep progressing and getting better, because when you go into that league, it's humbling, and he's going to get humbled.
It's not a curse. Ask the Red Sox.
Well, yeah, Kelly, he knows how to do that. He did it last year at USC, so maybe that ends up helping him out a little bit. All right, British Open this weekend, like we talked about. Scotty Scheffler, no shocker, is the betting favorite at plus 500. He's been the favorite in all 4 majors this year, and he's the first player to be favored outright in every major of a calendar year since Tiger Woods did so in 2013. And I didn't realize that. I mean, I'm not surprised to hear he's been the favorite for all of these, but I mean, it's time to start talking about Scotty Scheffler as Tiger Woods-esque. Now, he may not ever get there, but he's pretty dominant.
Don't forget Jordan Spieth.
He's been a non-factor.
Spieth is a no-show. He's a no-show these days.
I know, but when they announce him, it cracks me up.
I mean, hey, Scotty Scheffler's really good. He's doing some things that are unbelievable, and he's unbelievably talented. But until you start, we got to, calm down on the Tiger stuff, man. He's got 2 majors. He's won 2 Masters. He got to win more.
Yeah, what Scheffler did this year, I think I saw where Tigers has done that 12 times, and so. Got a little bit of catching up to do. Rory McIlroy is the second favorite at plus 800 after just a collapse at the U.S. Open, so I'm sure he'll have a chip on his shoulder. It's supposed to be rainy and windy, shocker, this weekend in Scotland. So keep that in mind if you see some higher scores than normal.
Let's go to Dallas.
Let's do it.
Okay. Billy Jones is at the Omni Hotel in downtown Dallas. And Billy, give me some notes. What's going on?
Yeah, obviously an exciting day. As you mentioned, the main storyline was Texas's debut today, their first time in the SEC. We also had Alabama, Kalen DeBoer, his first time in front of the Southeastern media with the glaring eyes of Coach Saban. And I thought Sark's tone was really important. The first thing he talked about in terms of his football team was he said the word he wanted to give to the rest of the conference was respect. He said respect for the other teams, respect for the coaches. He said we're not going to back down, but wanted to make sure that, he doesn't want this Texas team to come in cocky. He doesn't want to be seen as cocky. He wants to make sure that, he kind of gives the flowers to the rest of the league. And it kind of, people are going to have Texas targeted on their schedule, but he wants to kind of nestle them in as softly as he can. Also talked about the way that he's been really impressed with his players getting a taste of that success. And he's noticed, more intensity, more urgency from them in the locker room, which I thought was really interesting. DeBoer, it was kind of an odd situation when he was giving his opening remarks, right? He has to be sort of careful with what he said. Nick Saban was right there staring at him from the SEC Network set, and I don't think Saban looked away from him or maybe even blinked once. And DeBoer, they're not on first name basis. It was coach. Here's what Coach did for us. This is what Coach left us with. Not Coach Saban, not Nick. It was just Coach over and over again. And then, Jeff Levy at Mississippi State kind of makes his introduction to the rest of the SEC. Some questions about what they will be. I imagine it's a team that is going to have to progress slowly throughout the season. But he talked about something that I found very interesting. The first core value of his program is he wants his guys to have fun. He knows how much work goes into playing. And he says, if you're not enjoying it, you can't get better. And then, as you mentioned, Ford almost an afterthought with Billy Napier. That schedule daunting. He says he's got a special group that he's excited about. And he said, the fun thing about facing a schedule like this is you don't have to do it as an individual. You can do it as a team.
Boy, that makes me feel good. Wow. So tomorrow is it. Okay, give me this. When Alabama went front and center stage, how many people were goobing around?
There were a couple. There was a man in a Nacho Libre mask with
what I mean is just, was there a big Tide contingent
of fans or of media members?
Fans.
There were a couple, 4 or 5 out in the lobby.
Oh, good Lord. In Atlanta?
Yeah.
It looked like bigger crowds than the Hawks draw.
You should see the crowds they had in Birmingham.
Yeah.
When it used to be there.
Can't even imagine.
So taking it to Dallas sort of cooled that off a little bit.
I guess so.
Okay. Anything else?
Not a whole lot. Should be exciting tomorrow as we round things out. But, it really was funny that, all the eyes today were on Texas. And, like you mentioned, strange that Florida's an afterthought because a lot of the question directed at Billy were, how hot does that seat fill? And you're staring at a schedule that's tougher than any in the country. And are you ready for it?
As Ron Franklin on ESPN used to say, the eyes of Texas are upon us. We'll go to the break on that sobering thought. When we come back, you will hear from Kalen DeBoer, his first big media thing as the coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide. You're listening to the George Plaster Show on 95.9 FM.
It was the most horrible experience that any mother could ever go through. I knew that I needed to get help. My friend, she immediately said, you need to call Bart Durham. And you guys were there within an hour. You guys are like family for us.
Yeah, sure is nice to connect with the people that you're doing your best to help.
Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from, and for more info, Go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5688.
Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com. On a daily basis, their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
Good Lord, have we heard that song in the fall over the last who knows how many years. So here's what we know about Kalen DeBoer. We know that at Washington, he was a really cool customer, did a great job there. The question is he ready for a task like this, trying to replace a legend? In my lifetime, the only other one quite like this involved UCLA's John Wooden retiring and then Gene Bartow leaving UAB to go out there. And to be honest, it didn't work out that well. So Kalen DeBoer, first time at SEC Media Days. Let's listen in to what he had to say.
Kalen, I wonder how many coaches, friends, family told you it wasn't smart to follow a legend, and how much that entered into your thinking before you accepted?
Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. Understand, there's only one Coach Saban. There will only ever be one Coach Saban. And, this program is special. And I guess I just take it as a great honor to be the one that gets to do everything we can to carry on the great tradition. So much blood, sweat, and tears, whether it's the players and the alumni that have been in this program or coaches, and obviously referring to Coach Saban, so much is put into this place. We all have alma maters, right? We all have places that we have great pride in, and you always want that to be home, and we always want to make those people proud of their alma mater and the work that's been put in to set this program up for success. But for me personally, it was just more about just understanding that, coaching football is coaching football to some aspect, and you got to try to simplify it down as difficult and complicated as you can make it. have done this for enough years and seen what good culture looks like, and maybe even what a culture that needs to improve on looks like. And it's been just an awesome blessing to be a part of this program, to continue to have that expectation on us. The alternative is to be at places where there aren't expectations. And, at some point there's been places where maybe a little bit of that has happened throughout my career. And this is a great place to be. I'm very blessed, very honored, and certainly acknowledge what you said. But we're just going to focus on this team and being the best we can be and continue to build on the great tradition of Alabama football.
Coach, Brooks Austin with Dogs Daily. I think when you first got hired, one of the first questions was, how well will he be able to recruit in the Southeast? I think we've gotten a pretty immediate answer on that one. I'm curious what your thought processes are on how you define a great recruiter, and what your general thought processes are on player acquisition as a whole.
I knew the intensity level that existed here in the SEC, and I think across college football it's just so competitive. But understand that it certainly is different, and I knew it was important for me to put the right people around me. As much as I can preach relationships and getting to know guys and feel like there's a way that I can get guys to feel that this is a program they want to be a part of. I understand that there's got to be familiarity with the region. There's got to be some familiarity with coaches to be able to get started and get off to a fast jump there, especially in these early months, because you're behind when you come in and it's the middle of January and you haven't even put a staff together, and all of a sudden it's the end of January and you got a week or two to hit the road. And this is the last time you can be on the road other than a little time in May, and by that time the official visits are all set up for June. We were behind, and so I had to have a staff that would work well together. I think it's all hands on deck with our staff. Those within the building would feel that, just kind of sharing that it's a team effort, but we also certainly have some guys and staff on the field and off the field that just work relentlessly, every single day, just to build those relationships, to help us get guys to campus. And I think that's when we're at our best, because the culture of our team, as we have that energy within the building, when prospects do come onto campus, they see that this is something they want to be a part of. And so all that together has led to a lot of success here early on. Obviously, it's an everyday thing, and so it never stops. But we certainly understand that, having the right guys in our program is all going to make us better coaches in a lot of ways.
Caleb Barry Trammell with the Tulsa World. Related to the recruiting question, the only hole in your resume is you've never coached south of Carbondale, Illinois. What's it been like adjusting to the culture change? Or maybe there's not a culture change. Maybe it's Sioux Falls South. I don't know. But what have you had to do to adjust to a new region of the country, new culture, football culture, Southern culture, all those things?
I've sweat a lot more. It's hot, I think first of all and foremost, I think people are always what make places, right? And I've lived in a lot of different places around the country, from the Northwest to over by Detroit, and the Midwest and South Dakota to Fresno, California, and obviously Carbondale, and now here in Tuscaloosa. And I think people are always what make the place. And there are just so many great people in Tuscaloosa, and obviously they're passionate about their football. It's really made this transition smooth and enjoyable. It probably is, close to being the place that reminds me the most of, honestly, being back in South Dakota. Just the people, not necessarily, somewhat, I guess, just the geography. There's no coastline, I guess, down up in South Dakota, but there's a lot of just great things that are similar to what feels like home.
In the last 6 months, what has surprised you about going to Alabama and Tuscaloosa, and anything that you didn't anticipate that you've seen since you've been down there?
I think I should never be surprised at the things that great programs do and have, and the culture that exists. But what really has been awesome to see, and again, this isn't necessarily a surprise, but it's been awesome just to see our guys be completely 100% focused on the main things. And their chemistry and their trust and belief is one thing, but I think, and the accountability as well. But I think that the way they respect each other, you could see it in spring ball. And as much as I try to do a great job of laying out the tempos of practice and how we need to be aggressive and play the game the way it needs to be played, but also, hey, we got to protect each other. We need each other. I know I needed to say those things. I wanted to say those things, and it's important to me. But I think they understood that. And that's, again, a credit to Coach Saban and everyone that's coached in the program before, and the culture that existed even before I got here. But these guys, they know they need each other to reach the goals that we have as a program. And then I think they also really respect the goals that they have each individually of, whether it's being the greatest college football player you can be or, moving on and putting yourself in a good spot to move on to the NFL. And so, again, not a surprise, but something that just I have a lot of appreciation for. And it was an awesome spring. And I really think that all 15 practices, we maximized and got the most out of all 15 of those from start to finish.
How much is your background in D2, D3, driving the bus and doing everything from the ground up? The guy you're replacing, Nick Saban, talks so fondly about the work ethic he learned up in Monongahela, West Virginia with his dad. Talk about who you are and how that made you what you are.
Yeah, I love how the stories get better and better of all the responsibilities I had. I did not drive the bus, but that's what the stories and the legends will be down the road, right? And so I think I know this. I would not trade my journey for anything. It gives me an appreciation for where I'm at. It gives me an appreciation for the people I have around me and all the jobs that they have, because there was a time where you weren't driving I wasn't driving the bus, but I was, working with equipment and doing things in the locker room, pretty much a GA, an offensive coordinator, and a head coach all at the same time. And so I think there's again, just an appreciation I have for everyone when you have the support systems that you have at this level. And I understand their roles and how important and valuable they are in making them feel a part of it. It allows me to really focus on the things I really love to do, and that's build these relationships with these guys and dive into the football and coach these guys up and help them be the best they can be. And there's just a little bit more in those areas that I get to focus on. So yeah, it's a work ethic related thing as well, but it's an appreciation piece as much as anything.
So there's no doubt he's a smooth talker, and there's also no doubt from what he did at Washington, he's a really good football coach. But listen to this. At Wisconsin, home against Georgia, at Tennessee, at LSU, at Oklahoma. Kelly, that's a hell of a schedule.
Yes, it is. We're going to find out. I mean, I told somebody today when I was texting, I'm not sure that you would say that they're going to miss something, but I'm not sure they're going to miss a beat. I think this guy's a really good coach. I think he can recruit. He's won everywhere he's been. I think that they made a really good hire. I think he's probably going to keep it. Might take him a little time to adjust. Maybe to the SEC, I don't know. But, I mean, football's football. I mean, maybe in recruiting and things like that, but I think he's done a good job. And he's got the Alabama brand behind him and getting his own guys in there. I think he's going to do well. But, those games, we're going to see. We're going to see. I mean, is Jalen Milroe, or is that who came out of the spring practice? Is he still the guy right now?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you want Ty Simpson in there.
Well, I mean, I know he brought somebody. Didn't he bring a young man from Washington that he had at the University of Washington?
You might be right, but I think the only other guy is a freshman, Dylan Lonergan, I think is his name.
Right. They had a freshman that was coming in from California, and I think he rescinded his his commitment. I think he's going to Ohio State. But
Yeah.
Jalen Milroe, from everything I've heard, man, he's a really good kid. He bought his time. He knew, obviously behind Bryce Young, and he knew he had to wait his time, but the guy's a good athlete. I'm interested to see what he does in Kalen DeBoer's offense. He took Michael Penix from Indiana and took him to Washington, where he was more of a thrower, not really a runner. He can run. I mean, Jalen Milroe can do both. He's got to get better from the pocket, though, and it's going to be interesting to see just how his game has progressed from last year with the new coaching staff.
So you guys know I'm all over this schedule thing of how many Godzillas in a row do you have to play. I think they did a really good job here. At Wisconsin, September 14th, open date before Georgia. Then they've got Vandy here, South Carolina and Tuscaloosa before they go to Tennessee. Then they've got Missouri at home, open date at LSU. Mercer, I'm sorry, Mercer's not winning that game, and then at Oklahoma. So while it does sound tough, Billy, they have, between open dates, Mercer, Vandy, whatever, they have sort of been able to find, to me, the perfect schedule mix.
They have. They get Georgia early, and what does that do? What is that? How do you feel after that Georgia game? If you get beat up, you got a few injuries, playing Georgia early in the season like that can hurt you. Now, there's more parity, right? I don't know that, are Georgia and Alabama closer in talent than we think? We'll see. But at Tennessee and then Missouri at home, I know you got the bye week, but you got at LSU. And then at Oklahoma, it kind of keeps coming. I know you got Mercer in between, and that is a good point, George. But at what point late in the season, November is a big month, and at what point does Alabama start to really feel it? Now, they've got the talent, right? It's going to be up to Jalen Milroe, like Kelly said. Can he run this offense the way Kalen DeBoer wants it to be run? We saw what he did with Michael Penix Jr., but Michael Penix Jr., Kelly, is a rhythm quarterback. Yep. He's not as physically talented as Milroe, but can Milroe run it the way they did last year? I think that's a real question. He's a really good quarterback, but you don't think about Milroe having a great arm and an extremely accurate passer. He improved.
He improved a ton.
Yeah, but Alabama getting to the playoff, it's up to Milroe, because I don't know that defense is going to drop off much with Kane Womack either.
Well, Milroe can throw it through a wall, Billy, but his accuracy is questionable at times. I mean, I think he throws a really good deep ball. He's just got to get better with the intermediate routes, where throwing in
and
routes,
that's what their offense is,
and things like that. Yeah, that's right. So, I'm sure they've worked on it. I'm sure they've worked with him with his fundamentals and things like that. But if he's anything like those other guys that they had, I'm sure they were all hard workers, and I'm sure Jalen Milroe got a little bit of that. Obviously he's a physical specimen, but I've heard nothing but good things about that young man. I think the guys play for him, so it's going to be interesting to see. I'm just wondering, if you go up to Wisconsin and you blow a gasket and you don't play well, and maybe get beat, or maybe it's a close game, when they went to South Florida last year in the pouring down rain, everybody was like, Alabama, it's over for them. They're not going to win. And then Saban gets them to the national, one win of the national championship game. So it's, or excuse me, were they in the national championship? I can't even remember now.
No,
Michigan. They haven't.
Yeah, one win. That's right. They got beat by Michigan. So yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's just how are people, because they don't have the Saban effect there anymore. So if they struggle early on, what's Tuscaloosa going to be about? How much is the pressure going to mount on Kalen DeBoer? And it's going to be interesting to see, man. I'm looking forward to it.
And I want to say this too, George. Last year was not the Alabama, and even the year before, the last couple of years, Saban's Alabama hasn't been the normal Saban Alabama. I think we can all agree on that. They've still been really good, but last year, you turn on a game, and that South Florida game, there were some times last year where you thought to yourself, is this Saban's Alabama? Of course, they made the playoff. They figured it out. But even if Saban was the coach this year, that's still a really tough schedule.
Sure it is.
And today's landscape is still really tough either way. So obviously we're probably talking a little bit different if it is Nick Saban. But either way, it's tougher at Alabama now just because
it's the best coaching job he ever did, ironically, in his last year. When you saw Texas, mash them around pretty good in early September, nobody ever dreamed at that point they were getting in the playoff. Now, we're going to go to the break, and then we're going to talk. You're going to hear an interview from somebody who covers Alabama on a daily basis, and we're going to cut through all the coach BS and get down to, okay, what has this transition really been like? Stay tuned. You're listening to The George Plaster Show on 95.9 FM.
As you might be able to tell, my buddy Stan Harrison, he's an Alabama Crimson Tide fan, but he's actually here to talk about Apple Collision Centers.
Hello, Middle Tennessee. I'm Stan Harrison, CEO of Apple Collision Centers, and we understand the stress it causes in having an automobile accident. We can help you ease the stress of the auto body repair process at our 3 locations. We're conveniently located in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. We've got rental cars available, we have PDR technicians available, and we have windshield technicians available. Please stop by one of our places and see us if you need our services.
And by the way, when you come in his office, this just in, he's a sports fan.
You were in a crash.
Yeah.
Your kids were in the car with you.
We're very lucky to even be telling this story to you. Nikki treated us like family, and she was very caring and loving, and I'm just so grateful for that. She was somebody I could trust, and being a veteran, that's so important to me. My kids are going to have a better life now because I don't have to worry about those expenses that we were out. Your family has really created a legacy of trust, and I would recommend you to anyone.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormone deficiencies and imbalances, and Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and wife Daphne, along with their experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve their quality of life, improve your immune system, energy level, cognitive function, and more. There's no better time to achieve a healthy lifestyle. What are you waiting for? Give Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment at 615-486-3458 or visit the website coolspringsmd.com.
If you're having plumbing issues, there's only one guy to call. That's Adam Whitehead. As a third-generation plumber, Adam was born and raised right here in Bellevue. Customers praise his professionalism, efficiency, and personability. Adam is known for his prompt response to emergencies and for providing high-quality repairs at reasonable prices. His expertise extends to various plumbing issues, including sink leaks, dishwasher installations, and outdoor water issues. Call him at 615-485-1534. That's 615-485-1534.
A way to win by 3 to 4 touchdowns. Let him earn your business. Let the sportsbrokers.com show you how to win consistently. Call now and get today's underdog winner outright. 800-220-6262. Absolutely free. Kevin Todd is the nation's #1 sports handicapper. He's the professional the professionals turn to. It's yours absolutely free at 800-220-6262. That's 800-220-6262. Kevin Todd turns outcomes into incomes. Call now. 800-220-6262.
As promised, we welcome all of you back to the show, and we're headed down to Dallas. Nick Kelly from AL.com joins us to talk Crimson Tide, among other things. Nick, thanks for taking the time.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So I'm going to ask some of the same stuff that you've gotten asked 100 million times in the last 6 months. In your mind, how smooth has this transition been from a legend to Kalen DeBoer?
Frankly, as smooth as it probably can get. I mean, yes, there's going to be some bumps, some issues with transition, but they kept a lot of key staff members in place. Jeff Allen with sports medicine, Ellis Ponder, director of ops, just different people who make the whole thing work and run. And yes, Nick Saban is not there anymore, but they have a lot of the important people who helped Nick Saban do what he did over many years and be successful. So Kalen DeBoer kept a lot of those people. He kept a few assistant coaches. Bob Welton, director of player personnel, still there. So it's really been smooth. And I think you've seen that based on the number of players they kept in post-spring in that window. They didn't really lose many guys. And so you keep the roster together. That helps with transition. You also see a lot of recruiting success that they've had. I mean, it really, in terms of winning the offseason, it's gone well. And, of course, we'll soon find out how they're going to do on the football field.
So, as we all know, this went bang, bang. Saban says, I'm out. Less than 48 hours later, they've got him. If Kalen DeBoer had said, I don't really want to do the following John Wooden kind of thing, who do you think was next on Alabama's list?
My understanding is Mike Norvell was a top candidate there as well. And I think he could have made a lot of sense if they wanted to go there with him. So I think that's the name I would put in my answer to that. But Steve Sarkisian would have been someone that I think would have been a great fit if they could have gotten him away from Texas somehow. I don't think he was leaving Texas, but I think Mike Norvell was probably a top name on that list that was being considered around that time.
So in that first week after DeBoer's press conference, kind of talk us through some of the landmines he was having to deal with.
Well, he's trying to keep a roster intact, trying to keep players from leaving, and some did, some didn't. I mean, that's the biggest thing when you take over like that is, okay, can you keep your good players? Can you keep players you want to keep? And then it's a matter of getting staff in place, getting people who know the area, who can be helpful, can do what you need them to do, who can help you out and tell you things that you don't know and kind of cover your bases. It was really key getting people who bought into DeBoer's vision, were good for that culture and really fit well with what he wanted to do. And so those were two of the biggest things. It's the people side of it, of getting the right people in place, whether it be players or staff members.
I've tried to imagine if I was in that position where I'm replacing a legend. It was Gene Bartow having to deal with the legacy of John Wooden. Now this guy tries to, somehow make it work with the greatest football coach in college history. Has he sought out Nick Saban a bunch, or has he basically said, look, I'm my own guy, you stay away?
Yeah, I don't know to what extent necessarily they have talked. It's not like we have a call log, like the White House call log or something like that. But I do know that Saban is a willing and available resource for him. They're not in the same building. Nick Saban has an office in Bryant-Denny Stadium, and Kalen DeBoer is at the Malmore Athletic Facility. But he's available. I mean, even just today, they shook hands on the SEC Network set after the show went off air. And so they've talked, and Nick Saban has also been a resource to Kane Womack, the defensive coordinator. They've had a few chats as well. So Nick Saban's around. he's willing, but I think he also wants to give them their space so that they can make the program what they want to make it.
Gosh, this is such a fascinating story. Do you think there is ever a day that Nick Saban wakes up and says, I'm not through with coaching football?
He was asked that this morning of if he misses coaching, and he said he misses the relationships, but I think he doesn't necessarily miss the grind, and I think it was starting to take a toll on him. And he's 72. I mean, frankly, when I'm 72, I don't think I'll be as busy as that man is. And so he's retired from coaching, but I think he's really enjoying broadcasting. He's approaching it like he's a coach. He's watching all this film. He's trying to essentially prepare in a way that he would have if he was coaching. He just doesn't have a team that he's coaching. So, but he's trying to still be thoroughly prepared for anything he's encountering, so he can speak in smart and intelligent ways about anything that comes up on air. So I'd be surprised if he was ever going to coach again. And I think he's quite happy right now doing the broadcasting thing.
So fan base wise, this guy's undefeated, so everybody loves him. If he goes 9-3 and it's iffy and they're on the fence post, how much does that change? How much do they turn on him?
Yeah, the honeymoon might not last long if he starts losing games. And I think there's an understanding that undefeated, I mean, there's the fan base, and there's parts of the fan base that expects undefeated every year. They expect it under Nick Saban. I mean, it's Alabama, so there's high expectations. There's a high standard. That's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. But I think the more realistic fans understand, they've got a tough schedule. The SEC just got tougher with Oklahoma and Texas. I mean, it's not going to be easy to go undefeated, much less go 11-1. I mean, I think it's perfectly acceptable for him to lose a couple games. Now, some fans might not see it that way, but I think it also depends on what games he would lose. If he's losing to Georgia and he loses to Oklahoma on the road, that's one thing. If he lost to South Carolina at home, or another team that's not quite maybe seen as that top echelon level of team, that might be a little different story. So I think it just depends on who he loses to. I think 9-3 would be a little jarring, just because I think there was one season of 3 losses that Nick Saban had during his time at Alabama. But I think if Kalen DeBoer finishes 10-2, 11-1, fans are going to be pretty happy. And I think the big thing is if he can make the playoff in year one, I think that's the expectation. Of course, some fans would love a national championship. There's no reason they can't. But I think making the college football playoff is a good year one goal. And if he can do that, I think it's going to be seen as a success.
You kind of beat me to the punch. This team a year ago was good enough at the end to beat Georgia, if you want to call it a neutral site in Atlanta. In your mind, is there a legitimate path to a year one national championship?
Oh, there's always a path, but it's going to be really hard to do. You got to win more games than you've ever had to win. I've tried to tell people this. Nick Saban, even if he was still the coach of Alabama, it would be really hard to win national championships. I mean, he hasn't won one since 2020. And that's the biggest, I think, drought he ever had. And of course, he's retired now, so that drought is going to continue, so to speak. But the point being, that was a fairly sizable gap for what he had done previously. But it is so hard to win right now. There's so much more parity in terms of teams having to play some really good games, some really good teams, NIL, the transfer portal. There are just so many factors, and it is tough to win. It can be done, but it's going to be maybe more similar to what basketball is, where you have to have a lot of things go right for you to go win a national championship. Now, basketball, I still think is harder to go win a national championship because for all the games you have to go win in March Madness. But for football, I mean, you're adding these new rounds to the playoff. You have to win. You have to beat some good teams. So it's not going to be easy, but I think there's a path if Alabama plays really well and things fall their way. But it's hard to predict this far out.
Nick, this is my Texas A&M conspiracy theory question.
Uh-oh.
When Washington played Michigan in the national title, do you think Kalen DeBoer knew that he was about to get a phone call from area code 205?
Maybe. I mean, I don't want to speculate because I don't know for sure either way, but certainly possible. I mean, that's the thing. In that business, most businesses, you kind of have to be anticipating what's going to happen. But I think a lot of the college football world didn't know that Nick Saban was going to retire. I think that decision was made pretty soon before Saban called it a career. I mean, he basically went to that meeting that day, and the players did not expect that he was going to say, I'm retiring. Like, there was no this is just a well-kept secret that's not publicly out there. A lot of people I talked to really thought he was going to keep doing it because he was still working. He was interviewing candidates for openings that day that he decided to retire. So, I mean, he was still working hard. He was still doing things. So to say that Monday of that week that Kalen DeBoer knew there was going to be an opening, I think at some point, yeah, obviously you didn't have to be a clairvoyant to know that the Alabama opening would come open at some point in the near future just because, yeah, Saban's 72 years old. So I don't know if Kalen DeBoer knew it then, but he probably at some point was looking at, hey, Alabama's going to be open at some point in probably the next 5 years. That might be a job he's interested in. And he hired Jimmy Sexton as his agent, which is a good agent to have if you want to get the Alabama job.
Great stuff. I can't thank you enough for doing this. Good luck on the new job.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me, and hope you have a good rest of your week.
We'll go to the break by telling you you're listening to the George Plaster Show on 95.9 FM.
Good afternoon. Heavy traffic going outbound on Vietnam Vets and New Shackle Island as you travel through that section of Hendersonville. Just that heavy traffic flow going eastbound. It's busy here on the South Loop, the West Loop. There's been plenty of radar on I-24 out in Rutherford County this afternoon. Some over in the Mount Juliet area as well, up and down I-40. Princess Hot Chicken has new items on the menu. You got to check them out. You can even order online right now at princesshotchicken.com. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Your brain is an amazing thing, but as you get older, it naturally begins to change, causing a lack of sharpness or even trouble with recall. Thankfully, the breakthrough in Prevagen helps your brain and actually improves memory. The secret is an ingredient originally discovered in jellyfish. Based on a clinical study of subgroups of individuals who are cognitively normal or mildly impaired, Prevagen has been shown to improve memory. A Pharmacy Times national survey of pharmacists rated Prevagen the #1 pharmacist-recommended memory support brand for the 5th year in a row. You can find it in the vitamin aisle in stores everywhere without a prescription. Help your memory. Try Prevagen today. Prevagen. Healthier brain, better life. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Looking for a way to elevate your engine's performance? Start with Napa Full Synthetic Engine Oil. It provides faster oil flow for hot and cold temperature protection in the harshest driving conditions. Regular use can help your engine run cleaner and longer by defending against sludge and buildup, improving overall engine performance and fuel efficiency while increasing the time between oil changes. Make the switch without slowing down. Feed your ride Napa Full Synthetic Engine Oil. Available now at Napa locations nationwide.
Buyandtow.com. Get cash for junk cars. Do you have a vehicle that's become a problem? You can get cash in your hand today and your vehicle hauled away. They'll buy your vehicle no matter the condition, in your driveway, at your mechanic shop, or even on the side of the road. Give them a call today at 615-480-6473 or visit buyandtow.com. Get cash in your hand today and your vehicle hauled away. 615-480-6473. Buyandtow.com. That's buyandtow.com.
It's a Bill King Show. We created a rule decades ago on the show. Weddings, things of that nature, during the playing portion, do not get consideration. No. Don't do that. Weddings are meant for the spring. They do not get consideration during the playing portion of the season. That's just the way we work it around here. That's the way we play it around here. Weekday mornings beginning at 6 on Sports Radio 560 on 95.9 FM.
Okay, I guess that means we're back. Kelly, before we go to stat of the day, man, I have got a loaded hand grenade for you.
Oh, no, don't.
If every Division I head coach on the college football level had been offered the Alabama job, what is the percentage of those coaches who would have said, no, thank you, I don't want to deal with that?
Man, I think it would be high. Wouldn't you? I think it'd be like 90%. I don't know if I would want to do. I think he had a couple of guys. I mean, the Mike Norvell guy from FSU. he may have. I don't know. You're already at a place and you're winning, so why would you leave? And the same thing with Steve Sarkisian. Like, why would you do that? I mean, you're already in the South. I mean, Mike Norvell's in the ACC. He can win a national championship. He had a really good team. If his quarterback doesn't get hurt last year, you never know what's going to happen. So, and then you look at Sarkisian. He thinks he's got it rolling at Texas, and they give him everything he wants, I'm sure. So I think you have to look at it that way. But I would think like 95% of the guys are like, yeah, I don't want that headache. I'm good where I'm at. It all depends what your goals are, George. We've talked about that before. I mean, are you ready to go win a national title? Because you obviously can do it at Alabama, but that's headaches. And, are you willing to step in that pressure cooker? And there's a lot of guys that are not. A lot of guys just enjoy coaching. And, if we're good enough to win a national championship, maybe. But the way that the game's set up now with all the NIL and with all the money that's being shelled out to the players. I mean, I don't even know if 30 teams, somebody said 30 teams. I don't even think 30 teams have an opportunity to win national championships anymore. I think TCU a couple of years ago, when they got to the national championship game, I think it was kind of one of those moments in time, where everything hit right for those guys. But I think it'd be like 95%, George, to say, nah, I'm out on that. I do not want any part of that.
Billy, what do you got?
Adam Whitehead Plumbing presents Stat of the Day. You can find him in Nashville, Bellevue area as well. If you ever have issues with your water heaters, bathrooms, kitchen sinks, water or sewer lines, give Adam a call, 615-485-1534. All right, we're going SEC football. Of course, SEC Media Days.
Imagine that.
I thought I'd include a football question. Since 2002, Alabama has had the most SEC Offensive Player of the Year winners with 8. Which school is in second place with 4?
Okay, Kelly, is it possible that it's Auburn? Cam Newton, we move on. Maybe it's not.
What about LSU?
I think you're right.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. I mean, you got OBJ. Was he offensive player? I don't know. I would think LSU.
Let's see it.
All right, George has Auburn. Kelly, LSU.
No, I
answer
gave up Auburn.
is Auburn.
Oh,
Auburn.
wow, but you know what?
George.
I'm back in.
George is back.
Jason Campbell. Yep. Okay, Jason Campbell. Wow, he was Offensive Player of the Year?
Sure was.
Not in the NFL, he wasn't. Boy.
Dang, George, that's kind of harsh.
Hey, I've interviewed him before, George, so be careful.
Well, we congratulate you.
Well, have you still got his phone number? Are you going to call and tell him what we said?
Yeah, I might see if he wants to come on the show and talk to George.
Yeah,
I agree with that. I would like to see George sweat a little bit. That'd be great.
Oh, yeah. Jason, if you're listening, I didn't mean it.
My ultimate pick would be Greg Sankey. If we could get him on the show at one point, man, I would love it.
He'd use a bunch of words you've never heard before.
It's okay, but you'd be sweating because I'm gonna call you out. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna say you under the bus, George.
Well, let me say this: he and I had a little tussle.
I was gonna say you've interviewed him before.
When he first got the job, he didn't like a question that I asked him one day later, which is, does it bother you that Kentucky is the only team that travels to the SEC tournament? He thought that was totally out of bounds. And I told him, you need to toughen up because it's a damn fair question.
Ooh, George.
Yeah. And so, you know what? He reported me to the arena. Woo! Ask me if I care.
George, being abrasive as usual.
I know it. Okay. The second hour is going to have some unusual times for commercials. We're going to get a report from Billy Jones right at the start. Then we'll hear some Texas And then Kelly's former teammate, Chris Doering, will join us on 95.9 FM.
On air and online, Sports Radio WNSR, Brentwood, Nashville.
ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. In Milwaukee, crowds gathering for tonight's Republican National Convention, Day 3. Donald Trump's running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, tonight's keynote speaker. At a campaign event earlier, Vance offering a hint of what's to come.
We're going to get out there and try to fire up the crowd tonight and make the case, a very easy case to make, but an important case to make, that we have got to reelect President Donald J. Trump to the White House.
Former Trump advisor Peter Navarro also slated to speak. He was released today from prison after serving 4 months for his contempt of Congress conviction. Divisions within the Democratic Party as calls grow for President Biden to step aside as the nominee. ABC News has also learned top Democratic leaders backed efforts to delay the official nomination of Biden. A storm moving up the East Coast, bringing with it the threat of more flooding and power outages to communities. It's also expected to end the heat wave that's been gripping the Northeast this past week. This is ABC News.
Summer is heating up, just like the deals at Omaha Steaks. From perfectly aged steaks to juicy burgers, Omaha Steaks is your summer grilling headquarters. Shop the Hotter Than Fire sale at omahasteaks.com for exclusive unconditional money-back guaranteed packages starting at $99. Plus, get an extra $10 off with promo code QUALITY at checkout. Visit omahasteaks.com, code QUALITY for an extra $10 off. Shop the Hotter Than Fire sale today before these deals go up in smoke.
Omaha Steaks, America's original butcher.
Offer not valid in all states or where prohibited by law. Loans are subject to lender approval. See website for details.
Honey, the credit card bill came, and we're maxed out.
Maxed out cards, rent is due. We just need some extra cash to help us get by.
Maybe we should go to 27cash.com.
With our bad credit?
27cash.com is one of the largest personal loan networks. They can help people with any type of credit get up to $5,000, and cash can hit our bank account as soon as tomorrow.
When you need extra cash, go to 27cash.com. That's 27cash.com. 27cash.com.
Have you ever met a single person in your life that enjoys paying taxes? No, no one does. If you can't sleep at night because you have a huge problem with the IRS, I've got some free advice for you. This service is strictly limited to individuals that owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes. And if you qualify, we can guarantee that you won't be writing a big fat check to the IRS, or our services cost you nothing. The first 100 people that call today will get a free tax consultation worth $500. Stop worrying about your IRS problem. We can help you, we promise. Call the tax doctor right now. I mean right now, to learn more.
800-649-0142. 800-649-0142. 800-649-0142. That's 800-649-0142.
WNSR, Nashville Sports Radio. From the Nashville Sports Radio Media Complex. Welcome back to the George Plaster Show. Call George now at 615-844-5600 and online at WNSR.com. And now, George Plaster.
Featuring Tennessee Sports Hall of Famer Watson Brown, Tennessee Sports Hall of Famer Kelly Holcomb, along with Young Gun Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
And we welcome all of you to hour number 2 of the show. By the way, Chuck Morgan, the voice you heard a moment ago, sounded great last night doing all the lineups and stuff at the All-Star game down in Arlington. Just down the road from Arlington, SEC Football Media Days in Dallas, Texas. Right in the heart of downtown at the Omni Hotel is our Billy Jones. Billy, lay some stuff on me.
Yeah, of course, today was the big debut. Texas, for the first time, faces the press as members of the Southeastern Conference. Sark was pretty clear that, he didn't want to give any teams bulletin board material. Talked about that the number one word that he's using as he enters this new conference is respect, but also talked about the way that, the culture has so much evolved as he's been the head coach, and talked about that, after last year when his team tasted success, obviously lifting the Big 12 trophy just down the road in Arlington, and then a couple weeks later getting a chance to play in the college football playoff semifinal at the Sugar Bowl. He says he's seen this team hungrier than ever. They've been hitting the weight room with a lot of intensity, and he's excited to see what this group can do next year. Kalen DeBoer obviously comes in facing a lot of questions. Why did you want this challenge? Do you think you're ready for this challenge? And, the answer he kind of gave is just football is football, and he's ready to try and coach it anywhere.
So we know Alabama, we know Texas, but there were two others who felt like consolation prizes. Give me a thought or two on Mississippi State and Florida.
Yeah, obviously two different messages from these two teams. For Mississippi State, it was obviously Coach Levy's introduction, and he kind of talked about the way that he wants to go about building his team. And he talked about competitiveness. He talked about toughness. Above all, though, he talked about the idea of having fun. The notion that for a team to be great, they've got to enjoy the work. They got to enjoy the ethic. They got to enjoy the grind. And it seems like that message is rubbed off on his team. Blake Shapen, the new quarterback transferring in from Baylor, echoed similar thoughts. We also heard from Billy Napier, who had a quiet confidence about his team, talking about that this is a special group, the most special group that he's seen since he's been the head coach of Florida. He's excited to face this grind of a schedule, which, is the toughest in the nation. They got some really tough teams in conference. Add to that a road game at Florida State and games at home against Miami and UCF. It's going to be a grind. And with Billy Napier on the hot seat, they're going to need to perform this season.
What are you hearing down there is the number that he's got to get to, or he's out of there?
I think it's 6 at a minimum. I just don't think Florida is going to be able to tolerate a losing season. That still may not be enough. It depends on what they look like in those games. But he talked a lot about today about close games. They've changed some things in the way they condition, the way they do nutrition. There was a couple games last year, they let it slip away. Arkansas, Missouri, LSU as well to a certain extent. So they've changed their approach a little bit in their regards to nutrition, strength and conditioning, and defense as well, to try and make sure that when they get into the fourth quarter and even overtime, they'll be ready to go and they can flip some of those results this season.
Who are the 4 tomorrow?
We got Kentucky, we got Texas A&M, we got Auburn, and we got Arkansas. So a lot of different expectations. A&M's going to have to answer a lot about Texas. And then for those other 3 teams, it's what can you do to bounce back from what was a little bit of a disappointing season last year.
By the way, great stuff on your end. We'll talk to you again near the end of the hour.
Appreciate it, George. Looking forward to it.
Billy Jones, he's a University of Missouri student, and I'm here to tell you he will be a future really good broadcaster. We'll go to our first break. It's totally different than normal, but trust me, we want to get Chris Doering on later in the hour and let him tell us bad things about Kelly Holcomb.
He's actually on the SEC Network set right now.
So. Yeah. Oh, but he's more excited about talking to Kelly.
Absolutely.
Okay. When we come back, we will talk University of Texas. Troy Elling. Let me take that back. Trey Elling. Sorry. Trey Elling will join us. Terrific interview. You're going to hear some stuff you may not know about them. Stay tuned. You're listening to the George Plaster Show on 95.9 FM.
It was the most horrible experience that any mother could ever go through. I knew that I needed to get help. My friend, she immediately said, you need to call Bart Durham. And you guys were there within an hour. You guys are like family for us.
Yeah, sure is nice to connect with the people that you're doing your best to help.
Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from. And for more info, go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5688.
Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com. A daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
Welcome all of you back to the show. We're headed back to the Omni in Dallas. Trey Elling is with 1027 ESPN in the beautiful city of Austin. Trey, thanks for doing this.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and it's nice getting to talk to somebody who is in a sort of sister city to Austin. Nashville, Austin, Denver, Boise, Idaho. There are certain cities that seem to be lumped together in terms of the cool points. So congratulations for where you get to live.
Hey, same to you as well. So you probably weren't expecting this. I'm going to go conspiracy theory right off the bat.
Well, look, we're right around the corner from Dealey Plaza. I'm right for that.
Exactly. Yeah. So Nick Saban made a comment Monday on ESPN, something to the effect of Texas is not going to come in and run this league. Now, knowing him, there's a reason he said that. What do you think the reason was?
Because I think he means it. I think that the topic was not necessarily whether Texas was going to dominate on the field, but rather how much say-so they were going to have off the field. And this has been a point of conversation regarding the Longhorns ever since that initial announcement was made several summers ago. And I myself, as a lifetime Longhorn, has said the Longhorns need to accept the fact that they are one of 16 voices. Now, might they have a tiny bit more sway than a Vanderbilt, let's say? Maybe, but it's not going to be nearly the pull that it was in the Big 12 and the Southwest Conference prior to that.
Did they really have any choice but to be that way in the Big 12?
They had to, but you could also argue that they went steps too far at times. And look, we're talking about money in college sports right now and where programs are going to find money, especially those programs who aren't members of the SEC or Big Ten and the possibility of private equity. Texas was one of the first schools to really do that, to sell out, if you will, in creating the Longhorn Network, which ruffled a lot of feathers and is a big reason why the A&Ms and the Missouris and Nebraskas of the conference decided to leave. They didn't want to play that game with the Longhorns, with how much power and how much control they have. It's interesting to see how things are playing out right now, too. going to go on a little bit of a tangent here. I apologize, but
I love it.
The SEC and the Big Ten have so much power right now, and the Big 12 and ACC to lesser degrees, but they keep these other smaller conferences involved while also putting them at greater disadvantage by guaranteeing a certain number of spots in the college football playoff, while already having more TV money to work with. And there's other financial possibilities too. And it's like, at what point is the amount of power you have too much for some of those smaller schools versus saying, look, we are better off doing something more akin to the NFL model. I think that you can have more teams than the 32 or so that the NFL is operating with. But what is that ultimate number? I think the SEC, going back a couple of years, wanted to stick at 16, and they wanted to see the Big Ten stick at 16 too, so that it could be a cleaner break. Because the Big Ten decided to add the number of Pac-12 schools that they did, it's forcing a sort of reshuffling and rethinking of how to do things. Take that on top of the fact that Brett Yormark has done a phenomenal job of not just keeping the Big 12 alive, but arguably having them as the third strongest conference in college football, and one of, if not the strongest conference in college basketball. And it's just one of those things where there are moving pieces, and there's no, it's not static. It's not linear, excuse me. There's no trajectory up to a super conference. It's just trying to reconfigure things year to year. We're starting with the 12-team playoff this year. Might that be 16 in a couple of years? And eventually, do you see them say to some of these lesser FBS schools, which, by the way, there are 28 conferences in Division I, 4 power conferences at this point, telling some of those other conferences, look, we think that there should be an outright separation here to where you all not only have a chance to win a conference championship each every year, you can actually win a national championship. It just won't be at the highest level. And maybe we'll institute something like relegation, like what they have in the Premier League, where those lowest performing schools at the highest level, who clearly aren't putting the resources in to try and stay competitive, they get to drop down. And somebody who thinks they can play with the big dogs, well, congratulations, you get that promotion.
Trey, how important was it for Texas's kind of self-esteem to go to Alabama a year ago and say, hey, we can not only compete at the highest level, we can beat you at your place, the highest level?
Yeah, worst home loss for Nick Saban since being at Alabama, worst home loss for the Tides going back some 20 years. That was a huge moment for this program, and really, truly being able to turn things around. And unfortunately, I didn't get the chance to talk to Joe Tessitore yesterday and literally cuss him out for uttering the phrase, Texas is back, after they beat Notre Dame several years ago. But it really does feel like Texas is back in a sense now, and that really started with that win over Alabama. You could argue that there were maybe sprinklings of that beginning the year before, the game that was in Austin that Alabama won with a last-second field goal. And Texas had a chance to win that game, even losing Quinn Ewers early like they did with that nasty Dallas Turner hit that he took that I think it messed up his AC joint. But, yeah, that win in Tuscaloosa last year was really Texas' pronouncement of, hey, we mean business now, and guess what? It's not going to turn into a one-year flash in a pan and a joke for everybody else getting to utter the whole Texas is back bid.
Tell me how you think Texas intends to keep Arch Manning happy. I just can't see him saying, oh, I'm fine being a backup for however long it has to happen.
Well, it's only going to be for one more year at the very most. He will almost certainly be getting playing time, meaningful playing time in games this year, although I caution people when I say that by pointing to the fact that Steve Sarkisian, when he has his guy at quarterback, he really doesn't waver, even if it means denying another guy an opportunity to get some game experience. You need to look no further than last year, where Quinn Ewers was obviously the guy. Malik Murphy was the backup. When Quinn Ewers went down, Malik Murphy continued to get all of the reps until the game was in hand. And I don't think there was a game that wasn't fully in hand when he was starting games at quarterback for the Longhorns. Quinn had to come back a week early to help Texas beat TCU, but there was a chance to get Arch Manning playing time then, and that wasn't happening. Now, at the end of the year, it finally was, but they were past that threshold where it would have cost him a red shirt. And so Steve Sarkisian still wanted to make sure that his guy was getting the most reps possible. You might see a slight change in that, but you also have to keep this in mind. Arch Manning comes from a family that is preaching patience. They have been preaching patience since before he committed to the Longhorns and told him, look, you might sit for a year, you might sit for 2 years. Just know that you're going to keep learning on the job. You're going to keep getting better. We're going to keep imparting our knowledge on you, and eventually you will be ready. And when that happens, watch out, rest of the football world, because he is going to hit the ground running.
Okay, 2 more questions on my end. Would Sarkisian have taken Alabama if it had been offered?
No. I don't want to speak out of turn here, but
no, I want you to.
He could have had the Alabama job if he wanted it. But he also realizes the amount of pressure that he would put on himself following Nick Saban at Alabama, as Alabama was dealing with probably a net loss in terms of the transfer portal, while also knowing that he's got something really good going in Austin too. So I think in terms of job fits, Texas is a better fit for Steve Sarkisian than the Alabama job was. And it's hard to follow a legend. I mean, look, there's a reason why Mac Brown basically railroaded Nick Saban coming here back in, 2013, where he talked Steve Patterson out of firing him on a plane flight to New York City. And that railroaded Nick Saban coming to Texas a decade or so ago. And that really set this program back. I think Steve Sarkisian understands that he's not going to lose sight of the fact that he's got something really good in Austin. And considering the NIL era, you might be best served winning at Texas than anywhere else in terms of what those additional resources are. And I'm speaking, of course, about money.
Okay, last thing. This most recent A&M Texas flare-up, what level does this ratchet J.R. Ewing versus Cliff Barnes?
So the rest of the world needs to know this, whether we're talking about the SEC or beyond. I know that A&M thinks of Texas and A&M as a rivalry, but we are the daddy in this relationship, and you are Texas Tech with humidity. We will take your coaches, we will take your players, we will take your animals, and we will take your souls if you want to, and you will have to accept that. There's a reason why A&M went running the first time, and there are rumors that they're already looking to try and go running again to the Big Ten. Texas is the daddy here, but it is a lot of fun to get to resume this rivalry. I'm just bummed they get a second straight game in College Station, but I understand the SEC was going to try and do them a favor, especially after the SEC has, I won't say A&M has been a joke in this conference, but they haven't been treated as seriously as they would like. Look no further than A&M trying to sneak glow-in-the-dark uniforms past the SEC, not checking with them first, and the SEC saying, oh, you didn't want to check with us on this one first? Okay, congratulations on wearing your glow-in-the-dark uniform for a 12 o'clock kickoff against Auburn.
Texas Tech with humidity. Man, I love that. Trey, you were good to come on with us. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, guys.
That is hilarious. Trey Elling from 102.7 ESPN Radio down in Austin. Stay tuned. You're listening to The George Plaster Show on 95.9 FM. As you might be able to tell, my buddy Stan Harrison, he's an Alabama Crimson Tide fan, but he's actually here to talk about Apple Collision Centers.
Hello, Middle Tennessee. I'm Stan Harrison, CEO of Apple Collision Centers, and we understand the stress it causes in having an automobile accident. We can help you ease the stress of the auto body repair process at our 3 locations. We're conveniently located in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. We've got rental cars available, we have PDR technicians available, and we have windshield technicians available. Please stop by one of our places and see us if you need our services.
And by the way, when you come in his office, this just in, he's a sports fan.
You were in a crash.
Yeah.
Your kids were in the car with you.
We're very lucky to even be telling this story to you. Nikki treated us like family, and she was very caring and loving, and I'm just so grateful for that. She was somebody I could trust, and being a veteran, that's so important to me. My kids are going to have a better life now because I don't have to worry about those expenses that we were out. Your family has really created a legacy of trust, and I would recommend you to anyone.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season.
Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormone deficiencies and imbalances, and Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and wife Daphne, along with their experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve their quality of life, improve your immune system, energy level, cognitive function, and more. There's no better time to achieve a healthy lifestyle. What are you waiting for? Give Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment at 615-486-3458 or visit the website coolspringsmd.com.
If you're having plumbing issues, there's only one guy to call. That's Adam Whitehead. As a third-generation plumber, Adam was born and raised right here in Bellevue. Customers praise his professionalism, efficiency, and personability. Adam is known for his prompt response to emergencies and for providing high-quality repairs at reasonable prices. His expertise extends to various plumbing issues, including sink leaks, dishwasher installations, and outdoor water issues. Call him at 615-485-1534. That's 615-485-1534.
Let them earn your business. Let the sportsbrokers.com show you how to win consistently. Call now and get today's underdog winner outright. 800-220-6262. Absolutely free. Kevin Todd is the nation's #1 sports handicapper. He's the professional the professionals turn to. It's yours absolutely free at 800-220-6262. That's 800-220-6262. Kevin Todd turns outcomes into incomes. Call now. 800-220-6262.
We are back. This is going to be a very long third segment, and we've done it that way on purpose because sometime around 5:35 today, Chris Doering, former University of Florida wide receiver and a former teammate of Kelly's on the pro level, will join us. By the way, Kelly, listen to this stuff on Texas.
All right.
Week number 2, go to the Big House and play Michigan. Yeah. Now, there's the obligatory poor old UL Monroe, the ultimate sad sack. They go to Texas on September 21st. But Oklahoma at the Cotton Bowl, October 12th. Home against Georgia. At Arkansas, those are two schools that hate each other. And, of course, at the end, A&M, which, as we found out earlier, is Texas Tech with humidity. Okay, what did you all make of him just sort of throwing out there the A&M to the Big 12 deal?
No, he said Big 10, I think. I think he said Big 10.
Right, he did say Big 10. What y'all think of that?
That's surprising to me. I wouldn't think that, but he is absolutely right. I think A&M thought that when they came into the league, they would have a bigger splash than they've had, and that's the reason that they hired Jimbo Fisher. He was supposed to bring them an SEC championship, and that was anything but. So they've struggled. They've got money. We know that. You always allude to the J.R. Ewings.
Don't forget Cliff Barnes.
Yeah, who's Cliff Barnes?
Oh, Billy. Good Lord. Watch the show.
I did look him up when you said that, though.
He was sort of JR's arch rival who never got it right, who was always the one being defeated. JR would basically kick him in the you-know-what any chance he got. They hated each other.
Really, that was the only show in town, Hoss, when I was little. I can remember my mom and dad leaving from places to come home and watch Dallas. Unbelievable.
You didn't go out until Friday at 9 p.m. 8 to 9 p.m. was Dallas.
That's correct, man. That's I don't know. That just surprised me when he said A&M to the Big Ten. I can't see that happening, but hey, he's on the inside.
Hey, guess what?
We got him.
We got CD.
Nice. Oh, CD. You and him on first name basis, huh? Christopher.
By the way, Kelly, he wears better looking shirts than you do.
Save it. He's a Mr. Important guy. He's an important dude, man. He's a big fish, man. Couldn't get him. I'm glad he's here though. How you doing, Chris?
Good to be on with you boys. I appreciate you having me, man. I can't turn down my former roommate on the road, my close friend. But I don't know how.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
what
no.
happened, Billy? Come on, Billy Jones.
Jeopardy, competed bowling, anything. There was an opportunity to keep score, and he and I were competing.
That's right. I was thinking the other day too when me and you used to golf, Chris. I don't think you could handle me now.
No,
dog.
I could not handle you then. I certainly can't handle you now.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot better, man. How was before we start? How was the All-Star game last night?
It was all right. It was cool. It was more of a, hey, let's go check it out kind of thing. I think the thing, we got to go, like the All-Star game used to be important. You remember like Pete Rose bowling the catcher back in the day. Like we were talking about this on our show the other day. Which All-Star game is the best? By far, it's still Major League Baseball. NFL All-Star game, the Pro Bowl has become a joke. NBA, you play no defense. At least, there's a facsimile of some sport that you're actually playing during the regular season. But why can't we go back to the days where one team, one league, wears the home jerseys? Whatever their home jersey is, you wear the whites. And then the road team wears their version of the road. Like, they got these whacked out jerseys and hats. Like, you don't even know who the players are. So
they look
we left about the fifth inning. Obviously, all that stuff for apparel sales, but it was good to go out and maybe the highlight of the night was seeing Livy Dunn. That was probably the best part.
Kelly, this guy is way smarter than you.
Oh, there's no question. He's very intelligent, man. There's no question about that. Christopher, I told you the story that we used to go over to his house, his apartment every night, and that's how we kind of grew up together. Our families grew up together, and he would watch, we'd watch Jeopardy together, and the dude is like he's a nerd. He's a nerd.
It was fun,
He's
man. We missed those days.
I know, man. So, hey, let's start off with this, man. Today, they had your team, they had your college, your university, but they had Alabama and Texas, and it seemed like Florida's kind of an afterthought.
Don't forget Mississippi
Chris,
State, too. Don't disrespect the Bulldogs. They were here, too.
No, I know. I'm with you. But, what is the state of the Florida Gators right now, man? Billy Napier is, I think he's a really good coach, man, but he struggled the last couple of years. He had some tight games that they were in last year against Missouri and LSU that they didn't pull out. Arkansas. What's the state of the Gators right now?
Yeah, it's the Gator fans are certainly pretty antsy for some success. It's tough watching your biggest rival have the success that Georgia's had the last couple seasons. When you go through the schedule, we've been talking an awful lot about how difficult Georgia's schedule is. And when we go through it, nobody mentions the cocktail party on November 2nd. Everybody's talking about, having to play at Ole Miss, having to play at home, or having to go to Alabama, but nobody's talking about the Gators. And that's kind of what the vibe was today. Alabama gets a lot of the talk. Certainly Texas coming into the league feels really big, but Florida's maybe even being talked about less than Mississippi State with a new coach and Jeff Lebby coming to the conference. So I would say that that's actually a position that I think Billy Napier relishes. I did their spring game. I had a chance to be around the players at practice, had a chance to talk to the coaches. They've done a lot to upgrade the talent. I think they've narrowed the talent gap a little bit from where it was last year. Went out and were very intentional about adding veteran players that have experience, 4th, 5th, 6-year guys in some cases. But I also think they grew up last season. Defensively, they had 25% of their snaps taken by true freshmen. That's a recipe for disaster in this conference. So those guys are better for what they went through last year, the growing pains that they suffered. And I think they're a lot better in terms of culture in the locker room as well, which is something that I know Billy Napier values greatly.
Chris, so Gator Nation, I mean, they want to win. And what do you give? He's on the hot seat this year, man. He's got to come up with something, don't you think? And like how many games, is going to be suitable for the Gator fans?
Yeah, so I think the question is not the number of wins. A lot of people have asked me that. I don't think there's a number. I think it's more about the aesthetics. Like, how does it look? Florida's looked like a disaster here recently with self-inflicted wounds and penalties. Remember the 2 number 3s on the field against Utah last year? You go back to the execution late in the game, 2-minute situation against Arkansas that looked like a debacle. The Florida State game where you got guys spitting in people's faces and extending drives. I mean, it has to look better. And I think Billy Napier's addressed a lot of the stuff. They made a bunch of changes on the defensive staff, brought in Ron Roberts, who is the kind of the godfather of defense in this league. Austin Armstrong, the defensive coordinator, talks about Ron Roberts as his football father. So I think they've got some nice changes there. But I think you also have to remember Florida's the roster was not great that Billy Napier inherited. So I think it's taken some time to turn that roster over. But I think everybody's talking about the challenging nature of the schedule too. And you look at it, and certainly traditionally those logos look pretty intimidating, but Billy Napier's, he's accepted that. He's not using it as an excuse. He's not trying to buy more time. He's saying, look, it's pretty similar to what we played last year, and it's actually a little bit more favorable because you get Miami coming to town instead of having to go to Utah in week 1. You get Kentucky coming to town instead of having to go to Lexington. You don't have to go to Baton Rouge. You get LSU to Gainesville without Jaden Daniels and 2 first-round receivers. You play Florida State without Jordan Travis. So, on surface level, it looks really challenging. I think everybody plays a challenging schedule in this league. But I honestly believe, Kelly, that at the end of the day, this Florida team is better than people are giving them credit for. I know you love Graham Mertz. Graham Mertz is a guy you have to admire for what he's been able to do in overcoming some challenging years at Wisconsin. I think Florida wins 7 games or more this year.
All right, nice. So with Oklahoma and Texas coming in, what do you foresee with that? I mean, you got these 2 behemoths coming from the Big 12.
Yeah.
That's the splash that they wanted. Greg Sankey's talked about it, but what are you thinking? Like Texas last year went down and had a monumental win when they go down to Tuscaloosa and they score more points than Nick Saban's ever had scored on him.
Yeah.
What do you think about these 2 teams coming into the league and how will they fare?
Let me say this. First and foremost, the Texas and Oklahoma brands fit perfectly into the league. Even more so being around Coach Sark today and Coach Venables yesterday, like they fit in as 2 of the alpha male coaches in this conference. It's filled with alpha males. So I think all of those things fit really well. But I think one of the dynamics that's interesting for me to look at is like everybody's talking about Texas and nobody's talking about Oklahoma. Oklahoma has been in a ton of these college football playoffs since its inception. Oklahoma has dominated the Texas Oklahoma Red River rivalry. 7 of the last 10 years have gone the Sooners' way, and yet we're still talking about Texas. And to your point, I think it's well deserved. Like Texas went in and had one of the most shocking victories of the season last year in Tuscaloosa, physically manhandling the Tide on their own field on both lines of scrimmage. They looked more athletic as well. That was one game. What I want to see from Texas is, can you do it week by week? This is a grind of a schedule playing in the SEC, not only physically but mentally. I'm interested to see both of these teams, how they handle that cumulative fatigue that sets in as you get towards late October and early November.
So, Chris, with all this stuff that's going on with leagues realigning, and the Big Ten is going and scooping up everybody. They're getting everybody they can. I said yesterday I thought the SEC is doing a good job of staying, geographically in the area, but the Big Ten is willing to go out and get everybody. But this realignment stuff is probably not over yet. And Greg Sankey is adamant about staying with 16 teams. But if the FSUs and the Clemsons are able to get out of that contract with the ACC, and then UNC and Miami, those are only 4 teams. But he's adamant about staying to 16. What do you think happens with all this realigning? And if those teams come up, does the SEC go in and gobble them up?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I think Commissioner Sankey takes great pride in the contiguous footprint of the SEC. He mentioned it in his opening statement the other day. It talks about the Southeastern Conference being located in the southeastern portion of the United States. That's something that's important to him. But I also think what's important is he said we're 16 today and 16 tomorrow. Now, I don't know if that means tomorrow like forever or tomorrow and literally tomorrow you don't know what's going to happen beyond that. I think Florida State and Clemson, what do those two schools give you? I don't know why the only reason you would add them was to block the Big Ten from coming into your territory. But I don't know if there's anything gained by adding those two teams. I think, if there was ever any sort of additional growth in the conference, it would be a place like North Carolina or Virginia. I know those are two highly thought of schools and the academic standards and their commitment to athletics fit in. But I just don't know that Florida State and Clemson would be targets of the SEC if there was additional expansion.
So, you got to see Kalen DeBoer today. What are your thoughts on him, and does he keep Alabama rolling? I mean, he's George asked me earlier, I think all these coaches that were probably asked, there's like I said, like a high number, like 90% of the coaches, if they were asked, they would probably say, man, I don't want to get in that juggernaut.
Yep.
You're replacing a legend, and Kalen DeBoer, he's been a really good coach wherever he's been. He started at the lower level, and then he's won everywhere. What are your thoughts on that? Is Alabama just going to keep reloading? There's going to be some adjustment time, but what do you think about that hire?
Well, first and foremost, Kelly, I like you. I like guys that want that smoke, right? A couple years ago, it was Lincoln Riley running away from the SEC and Brian Kelly coming to the SEC with LSU. I certainly respect that. And I feel the same way about Kalen DeBoer, at even a greater level. Like, I don't ever know that there's been a more difficult job in replacing a coach in the history of college football than finding somebody to replace the greatest to ever do it in Nick Saban. But yet, Kalen DeBoer was all about doing it, and Greg Byrne identified the perfect guy to come replace him. I mean, you're talking about a guy that's won at every level, every destination he's been at. It's incredibly different. The contrast between Nick Saban and Kalen DeBoer is considerable. Talking with some of the Alabama players today, about how different practices are. How I asked one of their players about, what's the biggest difference in coaching styles? Like, Coach DeBoer wants us to come talk to him, and he takes our ideas. Whereas, I know Coach Saban, he's pretty strict on doing it one way. So it's going to be done differently. I do think there may be a little bit of with Nick Saban, the floor was always like 10 wins. Like a bad season was 10 wins. I don't know if they win 10 games this year. 9 games could be more of the floor, maybe 8 if it doesn't go their way. But I do think they got the right coach. I think he's going to be put his own spin on things, and I'm excited to see particularly how he's able to develop Jalen Milroe. The guy's an amazing talent, as we saw last year. Throws the deep ball really well, runs the football with some of the called quarterback run and scramble stuff. But I want to see him be better with the short to intermediate throws. I want to see him anticipate better. I want to see him own things at the lines of scrimmage.
Billy, you hear that? That's exactly what I said about an hour ago with Jalen Milroe. Hey, my last thing, because I know these guys want to ask some questions, but the NIL, just talk a little bit about it. I mean, I've always said that kids need something. They need something, but, $1 million, $2 million, $750,000 paying a kid in college, man, that's tough. And I don't know where it goes. I know that's where it's been trending.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts about that in the transfer portal?
Well, I think, why are we talking about putting a limit on what they can make? What I want to know is I want kids to be paid based upon what their value is. Yeah, the recruiting inducements, those types of things, that's against the rules. I want to see people pay for play is not what we're talking about. But if somebody truly can bring value to a company by doing an endorsement deal or making an appearance, that to me is what NIL is all about. What we're seeing with collectives, that's just another word for paying players, just to come play at your school. That's not the spirit of NIL. Now, I think one of the problems I have, guys, is the entitlement that some of these players have. It was the guys that came before them that they're benefiting from what guys like you and I, Kelly, did, guys before us did to get them to this point. They happen to be born at the right time. So this entitlement is something that I struggle with a little bit. But I think fans in general, there's this talk of disenchantment as it relates to not, being as passionate about college football anymore. The NIL stuff throwing fans off, the transfer portal, the lack of any sort of allegiance to one particular school, what's going on with the NCAA and Congress, all this stuff, a lot of turmoil. But I don't remember a more anticipated season than what we're heading into here in the SEC with Oklahoma, with Texas, with the expansion of the playoff field to 12. I just think this is one that we've finally gotten past all the offseason stuff and we can focus on the season at hand. And I think there's a lot of anticipation right now.
So, Chris, a year ago at the end, nobody in their right mind wanted to play Missouri. They ripped into Tennessee and Columbia. They kind of ripped into Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. And I loved Brady Cook. Man, I thought he was terrific.
Yeah.
Can they sustain that?
It's funny because I think we're talking an awful lot about Ole Miss. Like, Ole Miss is the team that I feel is under a lot of pressure. The expectation level's high for Lane Kiffin. They've won 10 games in 2 of the last 3 seasons. And yet Missouri had just as many wins as Ole Miss did last year. They both win 11 games. They both return their starting quarterbacks. They both have dynamic receivers. Like, why are we not talking about Missouri a little bit more? I think it just doesn't, kind of fit the narrative. Missouri is maybe not as sexy as the Lane Kiffin-led Ole Miss Rebels, but I think people need to be talking about Missouri a lot more. And I think they need to be talking about Brady Cook. I mean, this is a season that's filled with a lot of returning experience, headline names at the quarterback position. And you could probably rank the top 5 very differently. I've seen some rankings. I feel like Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers are at the top. I've seen some that have changed things up a little bit and had Jalen Milroe at the top. Saw one the other day that had Brady Cook at the top. And I don't think a lot of people would think that. I've heard Connor Wegman being a first-round pick after this season's all said and done. But I think Brady Cook's a guy that's kind of being overlooked for what he did last year. Was fantastic in Kirby Moore's offense. I think having Luther Burden, who is probably the best dynamic weapon in this league away from the quarterback position. I think he's the maybe, if we weren't talking about Heisman Trophy favorites, if we got rid of the quarterbacks, Luther Burden would be a nice dark horse guy to take to have some favorable odds there. The whole receiver group with Mookie Cooper and Theo Weiss, like, they've got some dudes on that team. The defense does lose Blake Baker, which I think was a loss for them and a gain for Brian Kelly and LSU. But I do expect Missouri to be right back in the mix. Their schedule is pretty favorable. I wouldn't be surprised to see them win 10 games and make that 12-team field.
Because they're on day 4, nobody's said a word about Auburn yet. People know that Hugh Freeze is a really good recruiter. But are you like me and you're like, I'm not sure about Peyton Thorne?
Yeah, I did their spring game, and I opened that, that old song, you say a lot by saying nothing at all. The fact that they didn't go out in the transfer portal and bring in another quarterback tells you what they think about Peyton Thorne and what his potential is. Talked to Coach Freeze when I was there on the Plains in April for that game, and he said, look, I believe in Peyton Thorne. You go back and look at the most successful stretch of games that Peyton Thorne had last year. It was when Hugh Freeze was more involved in the quarterback development, some of the play calling stuff. Philip Montgomery, the offensive coordinator last year, is out. As I talked to Coach Freeze, he said, I didn't even know the language. I didn't know what was going on. And I've always thought, like, if you make your way through the college football, the coaching ranks, to make it to a place like Auburn, why would you give up what got you there in play calling duty and developing quarterbacks? So he's reinserted himself a little bit more with that in that quarterback room. He believes he can get the best out of Peyton Thorne. He's going to be a little bit more involved in the play calling, although the offensive coordinator, Coach Nix, is tasked with that job. I think you'll see Coach Freeze doing a little bit more of that. But they also have to surround Peyton Thorne with some better talent. And I don't know if you guys have seen Cam Coleman or not. Cam Coleman was hyped up as one of the top recruits coming out of high school last year. I saw this dude in the spring game. He is legit in terms of body type and ball skills, and he is going to be a big factor in whether or not this Auburn offense, particularly what Peyton Thorne's able to do this year.
I'm going to turn it to Billy Derrick here in just a second, but off the top of your head, what is the worst thing that Kelly Holcomb has ever called you?
He uses like goofy names like slap nuts and like
yeah.
I mean, I don't know if we're allowed to cuss on here. Yeah, he used to be in the pods. Like I grew up with Eddie Murphy, like Eddie Murphy Ross. So I talk like a real athlete in the locker room. I use the F word, I MF some things. Like Kelly won't. He gives you these like quasi like O'Doul's cuss words. It's goofy, man.
Beverly Hillbillies.
Yeah, this guy, Chris. He's the Andy Griffith guy. Like this guy loves the Andy Griffith show. It's right up his alley.
Okay, Billy.
Chris, Tennessee, saw your buddy Greg McElroy say Nico Iamaleava could potentially be a Heisman Trophy candidate. He has them as a top 10 team. Are you in the same belief that Tennessee is elite this year?
I am. I had a chance to be in Knoxville for Tennessee's Pro Day, and on that very same morning, they had their first scrimmage of the spring. I go out there in Neyland Stadium. Nico Iamaleava doesn't look like the skinny kid that was running the offense in the bowl game against Iowa. Put on about 15 to 20 pounds, looks more sturdy. He's like 6'5", 6'6", big presence there behind the center. But I watched the ball come out of his hands, man. He's got a great delivery. The ball's got some tight revs on it. But I think the thing about Tennessee's offense this year that'll be better is the group of receivers around him. Brew McCoy comes back from that gruesome injury that he suffered last year. Squirrel White gives you a little contrast with his little smaller kind of slot kind of feel to what he does as well. But they got some really good weapons to help out Nico Iamaleava, and I think the defense will be better. For those that haven't seen James Pierce Jr., you'll see a lot of him in opposing backfields this year, and you'll see a lot of him as we talk about the NFL draft lead up next year. I think he's probably a top 5, top 10 dude in the in NFL draft in April.
All right, this might be hard, but give some hope to Vandy fans after what Clark Lee and that staff did in the offseason.
Golly, I love Clark Lee. I've come to know him over the last few years. I have such great respect for him. I played for a guy in Steve Spurrier that played at his alma mater and came back, or played at his school, came back to coach at his alma mater, and what that meant to him. And I know coaching at Vanderbilt's very special for Clark Lee. It's just like they're forever having to play with one hand tied behind their back. Now they finally put in some money into the infrastructure of the stadium there. Everybody forever has clowned them for not having any upgrades to their stadium since 1982. Now everybody's clowning them for having cranes holding up their scoreboards. It'll be better, but I think they have to give the people in Nashville something to want to come out for. Just because you build a new stadium or make some additions to a new stadium doesn't mean they're going to come. You got to have a great product on the field. And I thought at the end of the 2022 season, they were making some progress. In November, they beat Kentucky. They beat Florida. You feel like you got something. And then last year, they took a major step back. I think for Vanderbilt, it comes down to, two things that have been elusive from them. The last 5 or 6 years have been tough on Vandy. That's Clark Lee's tenure and the end of the Derek Mason tenure. But if you go back to the beginning of Derek Mason's time and even James Franklin's before that, what could we always depend on with Vanderbilt? Defensive play. They were always salty on that side of the ball, and they always had a quarterback, whether we're talking about Jordan Rodgers or Jay Cutler, or, some of those guys. They haven't had great quarterback play, and the defense has really let them down. So I think that's going to be the determining factor. Can they make some headway? Vegas doesn't think so. They got them at 2.5 wins. But I think they'll actually be a little bit better than that. Now, I don't know how much that gives you hope, but I do think that it's all about having some patience with Vanderbilt because it's not an overnight fix.
Kelly, we've got to say goodbye quick, but I can't believe you called him. I can't believe you called him a slap nuts.
Is that not right?
I've called him other things too. I promise.
Hey, I love this guy. This guy's one of my all-time favorite people, one of my great friends, and miss him and Lori and the whole family, man. Thank you guys for having me.
Chris, thank you for coming on. Thank you.
I know we got to go, but I'm a granddad. I'll send you pictures.
Oh, congratulations, old guy! Finally looking like your hair looks now. You got your grandfather matching that hair, right?
Hater.
I love you, bro.
I don't color mine. Hoss.
I just color the sides. I just color the sides, not the top.
See you, man. Love you.
See you.
We got to go to the break. Who knows why? No, I know why. Billy Jones, a final report from the Omni in Dallas. Stay tuned.
Good afternoon. They move this right to the side, 24 eastbound in Harding Place as you head on out into Antioch. Still slow in Williamson County as they mop up an accident with injuries going westbound on 840 right there at Lewisburg Pike. That's affecting that traffic coming off 65 onto 840 there in that section of Williamson County. Hey, whether you need a new roof repair, or roof inspection, independent roofing specialists, these guys have got you covered. Check out their website, irsroofs.com. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Bar Lines at the Omni Nashville Hotel downtown is at the heart of Music City. Located within walking distance of the Country Music Hall of Fame, Bar Lines at the Omni is your downtown honky-tonk destination. Watch your team from any seat on their plentiful HD TVs and catch a live show on the Bar Lines stage featuring live music 7 days a week. Bar Lines has the ultimate Southern comfort food. Get started with classic fried green tomatoes or bourbon barbecue wings. Then it's on to the massive Smashville double stack or the world-famous Bar Lines grinder. Oh, you've never heard of the Bar Lines grinder? 2 kinds of cheese, lettuce, Dijon, smoked turkey, smoked bacon, smoked ham. Now that's some smoke you want. Local brews and local spirits are on tap at Bar Lines. Take a seat on the patio outside and soak up the rhythm of Music City. Bar Lines at the Omni Nashville Hotel, 5th Avenue, downtown.
There are certain sounds that just scream summer, like this one. And this one. And who can forget about these? That's right, it's the sound of players all across the state winning with the new July Instant Games from the Tennessee Lottery. So play today for your chance to win up to $500,000. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? The Tennessee Lottery, game-changing fun. Please play responsibly.
It's just a few cocktails at happy hour.
There aren't any cops around. After every game, we always have a few. It's no big deal.
It was just a few drinks. I'm good.
Hey, I can hold my liquor. I drink and drive all the time.
If you put away some drinks, put away your keys. Fans don't let fans drive drunk.
Brought to you by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office, a division of the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security.
Every game matters as the Atlanta Braves keep battling in the East, and you won't want to miss a pitch.
3-2, that's hit very well to deep center field. That's heading back towards the batter's eye and way out of the ballpark.
Friday night, the Braves are back from the break, and Truist Park is open for business as Atlanta gears up for a weekend against the St. Louis Cardinals.
Pre-game coverage begins at 6:05 p.m. live on WNSR, Nashville Sports Radio.
We are back. A final report from the Omni in downtown Dallas. Our Billy Jones is there. He's been there all week. Billy, what have we got tomorrow? I know Big Blue's there, and I guess Hampton's there. What else are we looking for?
Yeah, well, I'm interested to see with Kentucky, obviously a new offensive coordinator in Bush Hamden. They bring back a lot on defense. You know, how's Mark Stoops feeling about what Hamden can do offensively with his new toy, Georgia transfer Brock Vandergriff? We've seen Kentucky utilize this a lot. Experienced transfer quarterbacks, Devin Leary and Will Levis. What does Vandergriff have in the tank? We'll also hear from Arkansas, of course, the big news in the offseason. Sam Pittman hires Bobby Petrino. Spoke to a source today who said that wasn't really Pittman's call to bring in Petrino. So interested to see what he has to say about Bobby tomorrow. Of course, they're going to be working with Boise State transfer Taylon Green. He will also address the media tomorrow on the Arkansas side. You know, Auburn was a really mixed bag last year, 6-7. First year under Hugh Freeze. You had those games against Georgia and Alabama where they took them down to the wire, but also got blown out by Maryland and New Mexico State last year. So I'm interested to hear.
The bowl performance was pitiful.
Miserable. So I'm really interested to hear, you know, what Hugh Freeze has to say. And then obviously A&M is going to get a lot of questions about Texas. They had all this time to build themselves out of Texas shadow, recruit alone Texas in the SEC. What have they been able to do? And now first-year coach Mike Elko, obviously he was the defensive coordinator for the Aggies from 18 to 2021. He brings Colin Klein as the offensive coordinator over from K-State. Are they ready to go toe-to-toe with Texas? Because, you know, they've had a lot of time to build momentum, but going into this year, feels like Texas picked ahead of the Aggies. Interested to hear what Elko has to say about that.
Remember what we learned today. Texas A&M is Texas Tech with humidity.
Yeah, and that's something that they are not going to take lightly.
No.
So I'm fascinated to hear what kind of tone Elko strikes tomorrow. Is it aggressive, or does he kind of shy away from it? We'll see.
Hey, Kelly, before we leave, Kentucky plays 4 in a row at home to start the season. One of them is Georgia. Are they good enough to hang with Georgia? I need a quick answer.
No.
I thought that's what you'd say. Billy, see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Thanks, Captain Obvious.
Wow. Why don't you call him something ugly before we get out of here?
Watch yourself, Billy.
I will.
Absolutely. Okay, day 4 is tomorrow. Can't wait to have you join us. See you then. What about it?